After 2 months as a hostage in Lebanon, Charles Glass is free.
I asked for water, and one of the guards said, "Why water? You deaf. You no need water." Later, they forced me to make a videotape claiming that I was a CIA agent, and told me that if I did not read the statement that they had written saying that I worked for the CIA, that I would never live to see my family. I opened the door finally very quietly, slid out, took the key with me, locked them in, and ran down the 7 flights of stairs and out into the road.
We'll hear his whole story tonight.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
The chartered jet carrying Charles Glass from Damascus, Syria to London is about to land. The ordeal for him and for his family is now over. This morning, when Charlie was still in Syria, we had a long conversation via satellite on how he was kidnapped, where he was taken, how he was treated. But I began by asking him the question that so many of us, and certainly his family, have been asking since that moment on June 17th, when the news broke that Charlie had vanished from the streets of West Beirut.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. It has happened again. An American kidnapped in Lebanon.
Charles Glass, who did such exceptional work covering the 1985 TWA Beirut hijacking, is a hostage himself tonight.
There is no word on who took him or exactly where he is tonight.
Charlie, among those here who love you very much, I have heard the expression used, the first thing I'm going to do when I see him is hug him, and the second thing I'm going to do is belt him. And you can probably understand why. There are some people here who have been wondering for what seems like a very long time, why in heaven's name did you go back to Beirut?
Well, Ted, I'm writing a book about the whole area, and it includes Lebanon and Beirut and the problems in South Lebanon. And I thought with the Syrian military presence in West Beirut and with the guarantees of the Lebanese Minister of Defense and his son, with whom I was when I was kidnapped, that I would be safe. In fact, I was kidnapped only yards away from a Syrian army checkpoint, which is there to prevent kidnappings. But I was wrong, and certainly it was probably the stupidest mistake I've made in my life.
You and the son of the Lebanese defense minister and his chauffeur, you were going where, doing what, when, what happened?
Well, I was on my way from South Lebanon up to Beirut to a meeting at the offices of the Lebanese Druze leader, Walid Jumblat, who's one of the figures I want to write about in my book. On the coastal highway in southern Beirut, which is guarded by the Syrian army, which is one of the main arteries of supply for the Syrian army, a green Mercedes with no license plate pulled in front of our car, and about a minute later jammed on its brakes, turned, 4 gunmen jumped out, and the car behind us also stopped, and 4 gunmen jumped out of that one, and then they kidnapped us.
Now, why did they take all of you? Because clearly having the son of the defense minister proved to be something of an embarrassment. Why didn't they just take you?
Ted, it seems to me, and I'm only speculating, that the reason they took the defense minister's son, Ali Assayran, and his driver, Sleiman, was to prevent them from immediately going to help. Remember, there was a Syrian checkpoint less than 100 yards away. They could have, had they not been taken, they could have gone immediately to the Syrians, who could have followed us and obtained my release very quickly.
Was there any attempt on the defense minister's son to say, no, if you take my friend Charlie Glass, you must take me also? In other words, was this by his doing rather than their doing?
Well, we were not permitted to speak to each other. I was taken off first in the green Mercedes of the gunman ahead of him, and I didn't know that he was being taken because he was behind me. I thought perhaps they would let him go. And it was only about 20 minutes later when he and his driver appeared in our first place of confinement that I realized that he was held as well. But we were not permitted to speak to each other. So I'm not really sure what happened, and I've been completely out of touch for 62 days. I haven't seen a newspaper, and no one has told me anything about what's been going on.
Let us now start moving step by step, Charlie. How you were treated, where you were taken, who your captors were at different times, movement, non-movement. Take us through the first segment, in other words.
The first segment was the first 8 hours when we were taken to ruins near where we were kidnapped and held for about 8 hours until it was very dark and they could move us safely to an apartment. There we were handcuffed, I asked for water, and one of the guards said, "Why water? You deaf. You no need water." And another one poked me with a revolver and said, "You CIA." A little later, they brought us sandwiches, and then they let us stand up because our muscles were all numb from the handcuffs and squatting in the dirt there. Then finally, when it was dark, presumably under the cover of darkness, they were then able to take us to our first apartment, where I was for 7 days, and where Alias Iran and his driver were with me, not permitted to speak to each other, with about half a dozen guards for 8 days. We were bound with chains around our ankles, or around one ankle, and the chains were tied around the beds. And we were blindfolded the entire time because the guards stayed in the rooms with us, and we were not permitted to speak to each other or to speak even to them unless they spoke to us. We were usually given some sandwiches to eat and water to drink.
Now, you were not permitted to talk to them. Did they ever talk to you, and could you, by virtue of whatever it was they said, discern what their nationality was or what their politics was?
It seemed that there were two tiers of guards. Most of them were not very religious. They seemed to be employees on salary, just hired either to help with the actual kidnapping or hired to guard us. And then those who were more senior, who were committed, and who were much rougher, really, with us. These were the ones that one usually heard praying the Muslim prayers in the next room, these more senior people. Whereas the younger guards, who seemed to be just on salary, would play disco music on the radio and occasionally talk about their girlfriends and the discotheques they liked to go to and this sort of thing.
There has been speculation that these were people from Hezbollah and that therefore they were connected directly or indirectly with the Iranians. Do you have any theories, any thoughts on that?
I believe that they were Hezbollah, but they never said whether they were Hezbollah or not. In fact, they never said who they were. I don't think they were Palestinian. I think they were South Lebanese Shiite Muslims.
Whoever they were, the terrorists soon moved Charles Glass to another location and forced him to make a false confession with a gun quite literally pointed at his head. We'll hear that part of the story when we continue our interview in just a moment.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Kodak VR Film.
My father is the greatest person I know.
If you had a race with my father, he'd always let you win at the end.
I love my pop very much.
He still calls me up and says, "How's my boy?"
When I grow up, I want to be like my dad.
When was the last time you took a picture of your dad?
Ford Motor Company's new 6-year, 60,000-mile powertrain warranty has a quality all its own. For the 7th year in a row, our cars and trucks have had fewer reported problems on average than any other vehicles designed and built in North America.
Not just when they were new, but thousands of miles down the road.
6 years, 60,000 miles.
With a warranty like that and a quality record like ours.
Whose car would you rather be driving?
At Ford, quality is job one.
Danny Davis here. For the best prices in office furniture in Middle Tennessee, see the boys at Office Furniture Warehouse.
I'm Kerry at 114 13th Avenue North, with prices you gotta see to believe.
And I'm Joe at 1650 Elm Hill Pike, with a warehouse full of cash and carry pricing.
And in Murfreesboro, I'm Mark at 117 Southeast Broad, with the lowest prices in town.
Shop Office Furniture Warehouse first.
A special announcement from the president of WSIX.
We asked you how to make 98 WSIX FM your favorite radio station. Your response has been overwhelming, and the message is clear. You want continuous country favorites. Only the best, by the best, played one right after another. So tune in the new 98 WSIX FM right now and hear the first radio station built for Nashville. The new 98 WSIX FM, now playing Nashville's country favorites.
Dolphins, for centuries man's seagoing friend, now are fighting to save their lives. Tomorrow, watch ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
1 week after Charles Glass was abducted, the two men kidnapped with him, the son of Lebanon's defense minister and his driver, were released. It was then, while he was held alone, that Glass was moved to another location and that some of the most dramatic events during his captivity took place. We'll let him pick up the story.
I was awakened late at night, told to put on a blue Adidas tracksuit, to keep my eyes tightly closed or I would be shot, put in the back seat of a car and driven to another apartment, which, strangely enough, was an inhabited apartment where there was a family with two small children, a baby and a young boy living. I was held there for 2 days, which seemed to be a sort of overnight stopover until they could take me to an apartment that was empty and was very well prepared to receive a hostage. When I went there 2 days later, I was put in a room where the chains had all been rigged up to go through a hole in the wall, and where the window had been completely covered with sheet metal and screwed into which was screwed into the wall so that I had no light, and when the door was closed, of course, no air.
I believe you said this is where your interrogation began. Why don't you lead us through all of that?
All right. I slept on a foam rubber mattress on the floor. My ankle was chained to the wall. My first several days there, I had no books, nothing of my own, and I just lay there most of the time quietly, and waited for them occasionally to bring me meals or to allow me to go to the bathroom. Some days later, they brought me a letter which they asked me to rewrite for them, or just simply to copy out, to Alias Sairan, asking him to give up his efforts trying to rescue me or it would lead to my death. Later, they forced me to make a videotape claiming that I was a CIA agent, and told me that if I did not read the statement that they had written saying that I worked for the CIA, that I would never live to see my family.
Take us to the tape. You say they forced you to make that tape, and clearly by warning you that you would never see your family again, that is a considerable form of pressure. But did they mistreat you in any way physically?
There were often threats of death if one didn't cooperate in every way. So in the case of the videotape, which I was required to read out, there was a gun pointed at my head a few feet away during the entire time that I was reading it, and it was made clear to me that if I didn't read it word for word, I would be dead.
I used the press as cover for my main job at the CIA. I work in different positions to reach my goal. I collect information for the benefit of the CIA.
Roone Arledge, the president of ABC News, says it's well known, and I hadn't seen the tape before, I'm sorry. It is well known that a hostage under duress can be forced to make false statements which should not be accepted as valid, and this is such a case, says Roone Arledge. Charlie Glass Roone goes on to say, and all of his friends who know him know he doesn't even talk like that he's never worked for the CIA in any capacity. He's a journalist who worked for ABC for many years, and our hope remains that he will be released immediately and return to his family and his 5 children.
I did everything in that tape to convince my friends, at ABC particularly, that this was not me, these were not my words. By leaving the text as ungrammatical as it was, by speaking in a southern accent so that they would know I was in South Beirut, by pretending to be more afraid than I actually was, so that they could see that these were not my words. And I held the paper in such a way, and I don't know if it was in the frame, that my fingers were crossed as I held the paper so that you could see that these were not my words and these words were not true. And I don't know how effective that was or how much anyone was convinced, but I was really hoping that the tape would never be broadcast because it was clearly made under duress, under force, and not a word of it was true.
Then did they first of all explain to you why that tape was being made, and did they suggest to you that something good might come out of it for you, that if you made the tape possibly you would be released?
No, they said they had certain goals to achieve, and I asked what those goals were. They wouldn't tell me. And that when those goals were achieved, I would be released. The making of the tape was part of their effort, they said, to achieve those goals. But it wasn't really the carrot and the stick. It was simply the gun. I was led to believe that if I didn't make that tape, I would have been shot on the spot.
Now, what happened after that? What was the next phase in your incarceration?
Well, the next day after the second taping of the video, They brought me some books to read, and they brought me my wedding ring, which they had taken from me when they captured me. They gave me my prayer book, which had been in my suitcase, which was taken when I was kidnapped. And they gave me 3 pictures of my family.
Were you kept in the same place throughout?
No, I was held there for about a month. And during that period, when I was taken to the bathroom, once a day, sometimes not at all, sometimes twice a day, I began to work out a way of pushing pieces of paper through the fan. There was no proper window, but through the fan, when the electricity was turned off, because there were often power shortages in Beirut, through the fan, with messages in Arabic, French, and English saying, "I am Charles Glass, I am a hostage. Please call such and such people at such and such telephone numbers. Help me. I have a wife and 5 children in London. If you can help me, I will give you $10,000. And over a period of a couple of weeks, every opportunity I had, I was pushing these notes out the window. I began writing the notes in my own blood because I didn't have a pen. And later, when I had a pen that they had given me to write a letter to my wife, which I then hid and hung on to, I began writing in ink. One day, one of the guards outside discovered one of these notes, and they called their chief on their walkie-talkie, who then came about an hour later and said, if you make a mistake like that again, we're going to kill you. How many of these messages have you put out the window? And now we'll have to move you. And they moved me to another place the next day for fear that someone might have discovered one of those notes and perhaps called the Syrian army or called one of my friends.
And you say you wrote these notes in blood. What did you do? You used a pen, you used a knife, and what did you write with?
I wrote with little sticks or bits of wire or nails, things that I might find on the floor. And once I cut myself with my razor, another time with a bit of, they had given me a tube of, what do you call it? I'm sorry, I haven't slept in about 48 hours. A tube of shaving cream, which when you unwrap it at the bottom becomes very sharp, and you can cut your skin with it. And I used that also to get a little blood to write these notes.
How many of these notes did you send out?
9.
And of course, you have no way of knowing whether any of those notes, or perhaps you do. Did any of those notes get through to anyone?
I don't think any of those notes got through to anyone, no, except that the captors found one. And in a way, it was my own fault that they found one, because I plotted a way to get it out the front of the building, which was, see, every few days they allowed me to wash my clothes and wash my bed sheets, and then they would take the clothes and bed sheets and hang them on a washing line over the balcony in front of the building. So I hid a note inside the bed sheet that I'd washed, so that they could take it out front of the building, and when they hung it out, it would fall out of the bed sheet and would perhaps be seen by someone in front of the building. Unfortunately, it was, but by one of the captors.
In a moment, Charles Glass tells his story of how he escaped.
Where's Chuck?
Why don't you sit here, JC?
Excuse me.
Aren't you glad you used dials?
To the airport. Let's go. Can we open a window here?
Don't you wish everybody did?
Driver, do you have a handle for this window?
Introducing new OcuClear eye drops. Every drop relieves your eyes 3 times longer than Visine. New OcuClear, the longest lasting relief your eyes can get.
It better be bits. It better be bits.
Oh, yeah, it's bits, Spike. It's bits, I tell you. It's bits. It's bits.
It better be bits.
Oh, it's bits, I tell you. Oh, boy. It's bits. It's bits. It's bits.
It better be kibbles and bits and bits and bits, because dogs love crunchy kibbles with chewy bits. All kinds of bits. For a one-of-a-kind taste dogs just gotta have.
It better be bits.
Kibbles and bits and bits and bits.
What I tell you, Spike? See? It's bits. Oh, boy. It's bits.
It's the bits that make it better.
If you've ever loved the taste of sherbet and always loved the taste of fruit, Purity introduces new sherbet and fruit. Fresh, all-natural fruit combined with smooth and creamy Purity sherbet in 4 delicious flavors. tangy orange, luscious lime, refreshing pineapple, and ripe real raspberry. Purity's new sherbet and fruit. It's a brand new taste for both your tastes.
To celebrate the opening of 10 new stores this fall, S&K Menswear is giving clothes away. Right now, you pay our regular low price for a suit and get any shirt and tie absolutely free. Or pay our regular low price for a blazer and get any pair of dress slacks absolutely free. It's like our TV commercials. S&K pays regular price for good talent, and then we get the dummy for free.
Here's your paycheck.
Right.
Green Hills Mall area across from Library and Outlets Limited, Goodlettsville.
Teenage drug abuse is a serious and growing problem in Nashville. Yet we have only 6 overworked drug counselors for our 13 high schools, and 3 of them probably won't be back in the fall because of budget constraints. $50 million is committed to the new Metro office building, and yet we can't seem to find the money for a few counselors who can literally save the lives of children. It's an outrage that I promise you I'll correct as mayor.
Thursday, understanding the mind of a fanatical Shiite Muslim. Find out why they commit acts we find so horrifying and why they hate us so much. Watch 2020 Thursday.
Tomorrow, take a look at Ron Reagan skydiving.
Better Ron than us.
And also Cheech Marin from Cheech and Chong.
And television and movie superstar Robert Mitchum.
Tomorrow on Good Morning America.
The governments of the United States and Syria have raised the possibility that Charles Glass may have been deliberately permitted to escape as a matter of policy on the part of those responsible for his kidnapping. But as far as Charles Glass is concerned, and you're about to hear him tell the story, there is no question of how he got out.
They began profoundly to distrust me because of putting the notes out the window. They decided that I should be bound by my wrist and my ankle. So I had one chain on my wrist all of the time and another chain on my ankle. But over a period of time, I managed to rig up the chains so that they became looser and I could slide them off. And last night, I managed to slide off the chain of my wrist and of my ankle and waited until the 2 guards who were on duty that night in the apartment where I was, they were sleeping in the room opposite me in the corridor. I could hear them snoring, and I was able to sneak out of my room by moving a very large cupboard very slowly and as quietly as I could, and sneaking out onto the balcony through the shutters which had been blocked by the cupboard. And when I went out on the balcony, I thought perhaps I could jump to another balcony or get to another apartment, but the balcony was blocked in such a way that it didn't lead to any other balconies, and I'd have had to jump about 7 stories if I wanted to get to the ground. So I came through another door from the balcony. It's maybe very confusing without a diagram, but through another door of the balcony into the kitchen, into the central corridor of the apartment, and out the front door. There was a key in one of the locks. There were 3 locks on the front door. 2 of them were bolt locks, which I could slide, and one had a key, which I had to turn 3 times, very quietly, because the bedroom of the guards was right next to the front door, and I could still hear them snoring. And I opened the door finally very quietly, slid out, took the key with me, locked them in, and ran down the 7 flights of stairs and out into the road.
Now, no matter what, and don't misunderstand this question, I know it's been put to you before, it is an extraordinary act of personal courage, whether it was deliberate on their part or not. But the suggestion has been made that this was their way of saving face, that there was enormous pressure from the Syrian government on this group, and that somehow they had to get rid of Charlie Glass without, however, giving him up. Is there in your mind any doubt that you escaped from them rather than their creating a situation in which it became possible for you to escape?
Well, as I understand it, Syrian pressure was so strong, and I mean very, very strong, to obtain my release, because I had been taken in West Beirut at a time when the Syrian army felt responsible for security in West Beirut, that pressure was already on for my release, and my escape may simply have jumped the gun by a few days. So in a sense, it was a legitimate but perhaps futile escape.
But I mean, there's no doubt in your mind that the escape was an escape, and it wasn't just that somehow things were made easier for you.
No, they weren't. In fact, they made things much harder over the previous couple of days by shortening my chain and making it impossible for me even to get near to the shutters or to that large cupboard which I had to move. So as far as they knew, the chains were tight, and it was impossible for me even to move in the room, even to exercise. Things were getting much, much worse for me rather than better.
When we come back, some final thoughts from Charles Glass on his experience and on the others still being held hostage in Lebanon.
Have you driven a Ford?
Now get low 1.9% financing or a $600 cash bonus on America's award winner, Ford Taurus, and Thunderbird, including Turbo Coupe. Also get 1.9 financing or $400 cash bonus on Escort and Tempo. Combine the cash bonus with option package discounts and save up to $1,358 on Tempo, $1,094 on Escort, $1,150 on Taurus, and $1,682 on Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. Great values at your Ford dealer now.
Would you like to have something sweet?
What you got there? Nothing.
It'll be my treat.
My mom doesn't let us have stuff like that. My mom does.
Something you and your kids can agree on. Something with NutraSweet instead of sugar.
Would you like to have something sweet?
So do you think you could have your mom talk to my mom?
To us at UPS, this is a custom car. Why, this beauty's been modified dozens of times. It has a fiberglass fuel-efficient front, a rapid-opening foam-filled door, and a sunroof, all of which makes us more efficient, so we can deliver next-day air for up to half what other companies charge, and allow our drivers to be seen in one mean set of wheels. UPS, we run the tightest ship in the shipping business.
1752, Benjamin Franklin captures electricity. 235 years later, Almond Delight pays for it. You can win up to 6 months utilities free. Now, in specially marked boxes of Almond Delight brand cereal.
Gravy!
New Purina Gravy brand dog food. It's hot.
Charles Glass is free, but there are at least 24 other foreigners being held hostage in Lebanon, 8 of those Americans. And for some of them, months have stretched into years. Here are Charlie Glass's thoughts on those still in captivity.
I can only say my heart bleeds, if I can be sentimental for a moment, for Terry Anderson, who's a hostage, has been a hostage for 2.5 years, for Tom Sutherland, for Terry Waite, for others. 62 days I found very difficult, but I think 2.5 years would be impossible. For them and their families, it's unconscionable. I think of the pain that my family endured for this relatively short period and compare it to the misery of these other families who have been going through this for such a long time, and something has to be done.
You are clearly an extraordinarily strong man, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally, and with a deep religious faith. And since I'm the first to be able to do it publicly, let me do it publicly. God bless. Welcome home.
I want to thank a lot of people who have been very kind to my family at ABC, David Burke and Peter Jennings, Barry Dunsmore, for my friends, the Irans in Beirut, who worked so hard for my release, and many, many other people, Syrians, Lebanese, Americans who have really worked overtime trying to help me to be released and trying to console my family during the time I was in captivity. And I'm very, very grateful to all of them.
There'll be more on the Charles Glass story tomorrow on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
August Learner of the Month, Irving Johnson.
I no longer look at prison as being a curse to me, but a blessing. I couldn't read, I couldn't write. Miss Cameron, the head of the reading program, told me that, sure, you in prison and things look bad for you, but you got the ability to change those things. And I said, if she believes in me that I can do it, then I know I can do it.
If you need help or can help someone else, call this number.
For a printed transcript, please send $3 to Nightline Transcripts, 2 John Street, New York, New York, 10038. Nightline is a presentation of ABC News.
Wednesday.
Hello? Hello. Who is this? Little Balky.
Perfect Strangers. Then.
Hey, Ralphie boy.
It's a hilarious trip to all your TV favorites.
Isn't that ding-on territory?
Head over class. Tomorrow.
A special announcement from the president of WSIX.
We asked you how to make 98 WSIX FM your favorite radio station. Your response has been overwhelming, and the message is clear. You want continuous country favorites. Only the best, by the best, played one right after another. So tune in the new 98 WSIX FM right now and hear the first radio station built for Nashville. The new 98 WSIX FM, now playing Nashville's country favorites.
Donahue, weekday mornings at 9. A study in the Word with evangelist